Hey Queen, I'm Faith Alaribe, the founder and host of the Sister Circle podcast. Around here, we have honest and real conversations about our health, mental health, and wellness, topics that deeply impact our lives as women of color, and all with the mission to provide the information, tools, and resources to fill up our wellness toolkits, make informed decisions, and to allow us to thrive in every area of our lives. So get ready to be enlightened, informed, and inspired. And go ahead and get comfortable, Queen. Consider this your official welcome to the Sister Circle. Hey, y'all. So this episode is in honor of World Bipolar Day, and it aims to help bring awareness and to reduce the stigma around the commonly misunderstood mental health disorder. Before I jump into the actual interview itself, I wanted to provide you with a little bit more information as it relates to the disorder. So bipolar disorder is also known as bipolar affective disorder, or as it used to be called, manic depression. So it's a mood disorder, and it can cause your mood to swing from an extreme high and then to an extreme low. And manic symptoms can include increased energy, excitement, impulsive behavior, as well as agitation. And depressive symptoms can include lack of energy, feeling worthless, low self-esteem, as well as suicidal thoughts. You can also have psychotic symptoms, and those symptoms can mean that you can see and hear things that feel real, but they actually don't exist. And there are actually different types of bipolar disorder. It's unknown what actually causes the disorder, but it's thought to be a combination of both genetic as well as environmental causes. And bipolar disorder is treated with medication and talk therapies. So a few statistics. It's estimated that 2.3 million Americans have bipolar disorder. Most Black Americans are undiagnosed and untreated. Misdiagnosis is common with people with bipolar, particularly Black folks. In 2018, there was a research study, and the researchers found that Black people are much more likely to receive a misdiagnosis of schizophrenia. So women are more frequently diagnosed later in life. There typically is this 11-year diagnosis delay from the onset of initial symptoms. And women are also 25% more likely to have received a major depressive disorder diagnosis alternatively. Latinos report higher levels of psychotic symptoms, but are also 30% less likely to be prescribed medication than non-Hispanics. Now, I know that many, if not most of us, particularly as Black and brown women, are taught not to talk about mental health. There is so much misunderstanding and stigma about mental illness in our communities, which is precisely why I'm bringing awareness to it, right? And I'm trying to provide space so that we can learn more. Because the more that we know, the more that we can understand, and the more that we can actually empathize with others who might be experiencing something that might be different from our own. Nevertheless, today's guest is Lindsay Anderson of the Consciously Coping blog. Lindsay shares her personal experience with living with as well as managing multiple mental health conditions, being misdiagnosed and being in a psych ward, as well as being diagnosed later in life after finding a Black mental health provider and with bipolar disorder. The conversation is so real, it's so honest, and just really vulnerable. I really hope that it educates, it enlightens, and encourages those who listen in. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it. Well, listen, Sister Circle podcast community, I am so grateful to have today's guest with us, Lindsay Anderson from the Consciously Coping blog. Lindsay, welcome to the Sister Circle, Queen.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am well. Excited to have you here with us.
Yes, I'm excited. I love speaking. I love just giving back and talking to our folks. You know, I'm always passionate about our people. So, excited.
So listen, I said we just go ahead and jump right into it. I always like to start my interviews with setting an intention. So with that being said, what is your intention for the women who will encounter your episode on the podcast?
Absolutely. One thing I've been focusing on myself for this month is really giving myself a lot of grace. So I wanted to set the intention for myself. I know I kind of, once I do like podcasts, I'm like, I should have said that. I shouldn't have said this. I should have said it better. And just realizing that confidence is not how attractive I am to society. Confidence is really knowing that I'm going to be my true self and I'm going to show up every time, and just having that confidence of knowing I made the best decision. So I want to set the intention to know that I made the best decision. I am the best. And, in the words of Tina Turner, simply the best, better than all the rest. So that's the tension we gonna set.
All right. I like that a lot. I like that a whole lot. So who is Lindsay? Where are you from? And what is your personal mission?
So I am born and raised from Savannah, Georgia. So I'm a Southern girl. I like grits. I love bacon. I love fried fish with mustard. So I'm definitely a
Oh, yeah. With
quintessential,
the mustard. Yes.
quintessential Southern girl. I moved around a lot. I initially went to college at FAMU, so down in Tallahassee. I was in the Marching 100. Then life happened, and I moved back home and kind of moved to South Carolina, different places, and now I'm back home good. Well, for good until I graduate. So I'm in school now at Savannah State University. So that's a big part of who I am now. Of course, I'm a mom. I'm a daughter. I'm a single baby to my mom. So I'm kind of, in that stage of like, we're kind of switching roles now. I'm like, Mom, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I'm like semi caregiver now. Like I'm at the semi caregiver state. Yeah, so that's really, kind of a little bit just my background of where I'm from and what I kind of do on a day-to-day basis. But like you said, I am a blogger, and I run Consciously Coping. And I've been doing Consciously Coping for about 5 or 6 years now.
Oh, wow.
And it started out as a YouTube channel, and it really started as trying to find a mental health person on YouTube. So I in the search engine, Black man with a mental health disorder, Black woman with a mental health disorder, Black person, and I only found one person. And so I was kind of disheartened. I was like, man, I know it can't be one person. I was just kind of like, that's kind of odd. So I said, oh, I can incorporate this into my YouTube channel. And so I started Transparency Thursday, which is now Transparency Tuesday. And I just would talk about pressing things as far as anxiety, depression. I would just kind of give my personal opinion of things happen, such as big losses and, just kind of different things in the media. And so it just kind of took off. I always tell people it was a very self-serving thing in the beginning. And then once I start to receive messages and emails about, wow, I thought I was the only person who really felt this way, then I realized like, oh, this is bigger than me. And then that's when the shift kind of shifted and it became Consciously Coping and pretty much what it is today. So I love it. I love doing that. It's my that's my thing.
That is so awesome. And I absolutely love the name Consciously Coping. So like, how did you come up with that?
Funny story. So initially it was Lindsay with an A, because my name is Lindsay and it's spelled with an A. And for some reason, everybody wants to spell it with an E. And so I was like, Lindsay with an A, get my name right. Once I realized really that it was a bigger purpose for me, I said, this name doesn't serve, other people. Like this is me saying, hey, Lindsay with an A. And I said, I need to change the name. And so I was, kind of brainstorming and coming up with these ideas. And I was like, that doesn't feel like me, who I am as a person. I will never forget, I was driving my son to school. He was in the first grade. So when I dropped him off, I was on my way to work. And it's about a 20-minute drive to where I used to work. And I had the radio on. I'm like, what do I do every day? What am I trying to do? What is my goal? And kind of talking to myself. I'm like, well, I'm trying to cope. I'm like, but I don't want to say poor coping mechanism. I was like, that's weird. And so I started out with cope, and I was like, what do you do when you cope? What are you trying to do when you cope? Like, what are you, Black girl coping? I was like, no, I don't like that. And I was like, it's something you do consciously. I was like, it's a conscious effort that you're making to cope. And I was like, oh my gosh, consciously coping. So it kind of, I was like, that's perfect. Like, and so I just talked myself through it of like, what am I trying to do? I am trying to cope. How am I trying to cope consciously? And once it clicked, I was like, that makes so much sense. And I love it. Like every time
I
people
love it
hear
too. It is so bomb.
yeah, people are like, that is really cool that you came up with consciously coping. I said, I'm telling you. And it's really good. I feel like while I love the organizations with Black, that begin with Black or end with Black, I really wanted something that people can understand like what I'm really trying to do. And of course, when you read my bio, if you go on my page, I'm always Black, African American, Black women, Black men. But the title, I really wanted to make sure people understood what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get us all to consciously cope, for us to really think about it and be active and invested and divested in our coping and have positive coping mechanisms. And so I was like, I wanted to say like Black girl consciously coping. And I was like, that's okay. But I was like, I like consciously. I just like that. Like, I feel like that is very powerful. And people like, oh, wow, this is a conscious effort. And I think a lot of people, when they hear, they're like, that makes so much sense.
It does. It does. And it's so good. I was like, when I first stumbled across it, I was just like, oh, the name along was like, oh, okay, this is something that I'm interested in learning more. Like, what is this? Right. So that's super dope. So talk to me a little bit. So consciously coping, you first said that you were using it was like self-serving, right? So you were using it as a way to kind of like process your feelings and emotions. And so what has been your mental health journey?
So I'm gonna give you the short version of a long story. So my mental health journey began when I was in middle school. I was really bullied, teased, harassed, vilified. I mean, just extreme. If I'm 37, so for me, when I was in middle school, it was like what, mid 90s. Nobody was having conversations about being bullied, especially in the Black community. Yeah,
we're the same age, so yes, I'm very much so familiar.
Yeah, and so I know like people in my generation are like, my mom said I gotta fight you, like like you talk about me like I gotta fight you, and I just wasn't that person. Like that's just not how my mom and them are like, you don't need to be out here fighting folks, you need to be going to school. So I really took it in. So people were calling me names and saying I was unattractive and just different things, and like, you're gonna do my homework, and so I was taking it in as a personal fault. So I really took that on. And as time, after I kept hearing it so many times, I started to believe it. So I held all of that in, and it wasn't until seventh grade. My best friend at the time, she was like, what's up with you? Like, something's not right, something's off. I was being really distant, just really quiet. I'm a very talkative person. And she could just kind of tell like something's not. And so she went to our nurse and she was like, I don't know what's wrong with my friend, but something is wrong. She's not being herself. She's always crying. She doesn't talk anymore. And she, called at the time I was transitioning from staying with my grandmother to moving with my mom. And they were like, we got to get her some help. And my grandmother, very religious, Baptist, like, oh, we're just gonna pray, she's gonna be okay. And so I kind of fell into that thing. And so I just really struggled from 12 to about 27. When I went to college initially, I started having panic attacks, chronic panic attacks every day. I was going to the hospital because my friends didn't know how to kind of identify that, oh, this is just an anxiety attack. We need to just bring her into an environment that is very calming. They would panic. And so when they panic, then I would panic. And they would just take me to the hospital. So I started racking up hospital bills. And that just continued. The depression, really became a chronic issue. I mean, I just kind of bottomed out by, 2005. By 2005, I was hospitalized. And it was a voluntary, involuntary hospitalization. I was in Florida, so it's called being Baker acted. So I was Baker acted, so that was a 72-hour stay. I was like, I don't want to be here. I shouldn't be here. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. I got it under control. I didn't tell the truth about kind of how I was feeling. I was like, I'm just stressed. I'm tired. And I left there. I started going to an anxiety specialist therapist. She was amazing. She helped me with my anxiety. She was really good. Once I stopped going to her in about 8 weeks, I was like, oh, I'm fine. Oh, I got this. And I was okay. And then I just kind of plummeted again. And then in 2011, I went back to a mental health facility for 30 days. And so that was like kind of the eye-opening experience. Like that was the beginning of like, you kind of got to get this thing, you kind of got to get this together.
Right. Really quick, Lindsay. So you said that by the next time that you entered the hospital, your hospital stay was for 30 days, right? So was that voluntary or was that involuntary?
So it was voluntary. I called one of my really good friends and I was like, I am losing it. I was like, I can't sleep. I'm crying hysterically. I need you to stay on the phone. Just talk to me for about an hour or two. So we talked for about 2.5 hours. At the time, I was married and my husband at the time was at work. And so we hung up and she's like, okay, just go to sleep. Tomorrow everything will be okay. And I was like, okay. And so we got the phone and I couldn't stop the racing thoughts. It's like trying to say, okay, well, if I take these pills and like he comes home and it looks like I'm asleep, well, we do have a gun, and so once I kind of felt myself like trying to figure out like how can I take my life, and I was like, whoa, 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 like, wait a minute, wait a minute. And so I was like, you gotta go. So I got up and I called my friend. I was like, I gotta go to the hospital. I was like, if I stay home, I'm not gonna make it. I'm just not. And so I got up and packed me a little bag, which I don't know why, because they take everything. But I got them anyway. And I went right to the hospital and I was like, if you let me go home, I won't be here any longer. And so day 3, they were like, you want to leave? And the social worker was like, I don't think you should leave. She was like, I'm really concerned as, suicidal as you were, I'm really concerned that if we let you go home, it's only been 3 days. And so I told her I agreed and stayed for 30 days.
So for 30 days, what were you doing?
Ironically, this is the same hospital I went to the first time when I was in Tallahassee, interesting enough. And they had made a lot of changes. So it's a behavioral center. It's not necessarily like a mental health center. I mean, it's a mental health encompassed in that. But for the section that I was in, their sections are lettered. So A was people who can kind of function, B was people who can't function, and then C were children, adolescent. And so I was in the functioning group. So, the first few days they have you kind of like in solitude, you eat by yourself, you go to therapy, you go to just single therapy, you meet with your social worker if you have children. You meet with a psychiatrist. So it's like you're kind of by yourself. Once day 3 kind of passes, then they kind of like introduce you with everyone who's there. And so, you go to group sessions, they have music therapy, they have group therapy, you go to single therapy. So there's a lot of therapeutic services and they really like encourage you to do them. They won't force you. When I was there this time, they won't force you to go to anything unless you wanted to. And you didn't have to go to everything. They just kind of like, you sure? Like, we recommend you go do this. But yeah, and I did that for 30 days. And I really felt like I had a break because I was a mom. And so my grandmother had already had my son for like about a week before I went in the hospital. And so it really felt like a break. I didn't have, my husband wasn't there. So it wasn't like the weight of I got to be the perfect wife. I didn't have to be the perfect mom. I didn't have to be the perfect employee. I could just go to this place and tend to Lindsay, right? And so, yeah, I honestly, it was like the best. I know it sounds bad, but it was the best 30 days of my life.
No,
I
that's
really
good that you
felt
got to
like,
focus on you.
yeah, and so some of that weight was taken off. And of course, there are negative things about mental health facilities. There are negative things about all of them. And so this time, like I said, this is my second time going. So for me, it was a totally different experience than the first time. First time was horrible, but this time they had new people working. You could tell people were kind of trained a little bit better. So things were a lot. They had made a lot of changes. So once I left, I was like, okay, I feel better. I feel good. And they were like, well, you got to keep this going. And of course, I'm fine. I feel good now. So I went right back to the I feel good now. That
So
was
when you go
that.
back to the I feel good, does that mean like were you given medication or no?
So that time, while you're there, they give you medication. So for me, I was suicidal and I hadn't been sleeping. So of course they gave me Ambien to make me go to sleep. They put me on Buspar. Buspar is for depression, and it made me hecka sick, very sick, vomiting, like just like this is not working. So they stopped it. And they were like, we got to figure out something else. We got to try to decide. So it took a few days. And what did they put me on the second time? First was Buspar. And I want to say it was Wellbutrin. It was Wellbutrin, which I had tried before and it really didn't work. And so a psychiatrist there actually suggested, he said, I really think, that you may have bipolar disorder. I don't really think you have depression. And I was like, no, I don't, no, I don't have bipolar. What are you talking about? I'm always depressed. And he said, well, you've been here 3 days and you're upbeat and you're talking and you're hanging out. And he's like, that's not how you were 2 days ago. And so, yeah, he was like, I want you to kind of go, like, continue to go to a therapist and a psychiatrist to really have conversation and see these people on a current reoccurring basis, and then they'll be able to determine kind of what's going on. But yeah, they put you on whatever, and they will let you know if you do not take the medication, you will not leave. Like they set that foundation when you get there. Like, you don't take this, you aren't leaving. Which is, I'm always kind of torn between people should have their own rights, and then if you're a harm to yourself. And so I'm always like, I don't know how I feel about that, but you can refuse. Like, you can refuse and say no, and they'll say, well, you gotta stay. Then you can go through legal steps at that point. So if you decided like, oh well, I don't want to take this medicine, long as it's after 72 days, then you can start legal proceedings and go to court and try to get yourself out of there.
That's a lot. That's a whole lot.
Yes. Oh, they don't play. Yeah.
Wow. So 30 days pass, you leave the treatment facility, and then what happens?
So I left. That had to be March, because my son's birthday is in April. So it was March. Went back to work, and I was there for about a week, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't even work. I was like a team lead over the stockroom. Very stressful job. Had to be on my feet all day, had to be around people, had to lead a team, had to
lead a team. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it was a lot, and it was just too much. And I was really trying to like get back in the groove of being that hard worker that I was, and coming on time and staying late, and it was too much. I was really dealing with a lot of things, and I was like, I can't do this. So I went to talk to my assistant manager and manager, and I said, hey, I want to talk to you all. And when I walked in, the assistant manager said, she said, oh, we wanted to talk to you as well. And well, we're kind of concerned, about your role, like, are you able to handle this? We know that it's a lot of challenges in the back. And I said, well, that's what I'm coming to talk to you about. I said, I just don't think I can work. And so I said, I want to put my 2-week notice in. I said, because I can't function. I can't even function. And so I put my 2 weeks notice in, and I went to my husband, and I was like, I don't want to live here anymore. I gotta go. And so he was just kind of like, okay. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. And so I was like, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And he just was like, oh, like, what? And
so you were leaving Florida?
Yeah, I was like, I can't do this. So I packed my bags, and me and my son were gone. And I left, and I came back, and I moved in with my grandparents, and I was just like, I can't do it. I have a really bad habit of not telling people when things are like going not so well. And so I do this thing where I'm like, and I don't want to face it. So let me just go this way. I kind of run. Problem is, your problems kind of run faster than you do. And so yeah, I moved back home and kind of didn't tell people what was going on, and kind of just like, I'm here. So like, people were like, what made you, like, are you and your husband still together? Like, it was like a weird space for everybody, because they were like, are y'all divorced, separated, you together, are you going back? Like, and I just kind of, and I was just kind of like, I'm just gonna stay here for a while. My grandma was kind of like, is everything okay? And I was like, oh, I'm fine. And so I did a lot of that for a long time, and really depressed, really, having poor coping mechanisms, drinking and partying, and so I kind of went through that spiral out. And then, of course, per usual, depression kind of sunk back in, kind of became chronic again. Ideation became chronic again. And it was just like that vicious cycle was back, and I still tried to, I got it, I got it, I got it. And I did that for a long time until 2017. And then I was like, I can't. Like, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of leaving. I'm tired of moving. I just want to feel better. And so one of my stepmom's neighbors was like, I go to a therapist. She's black. I love her. She's older. You should try her. About 3 weeks later, I called. I scheduled my appointment, and I went, and that was the beginning of like consistently going to a therapist. Like, that was it. Yeah, that was it. I started going to a psychiatrist about 7 weeks after my first therapy session. I got diagnosed correctly because I was misdiagnosed since I was 12. So that
Wait,
made
so
a
you
big
have been
difference.
misdiagnosed?
Yeah. So I was
Girl,
diagnosed with
what?
yeah. They don't listen to black folks, girl. They don't listen to us.
So what?
They
So
don't listen.
okay. So you have been diagnosed up until that point with just what, like depression?
Yeah. So this dysthymia, which is a not a chronic depressive, not like major depression. So major depression is kind of characterized as having long, extensive, debilitating depression. Dysthymia is having a mild depression, like you're more so in a low mood, and it lasts about 2 months, or it can last, a few years, but it's so mild that you're kind of able to like quote unquote function. So they said I had dysthymia as well as generalized anxiety disorder and PTSD. I was like, oh, okay. And then 2017, I go to the psychiatrist, and I'm like telling her, she's like, our first session is gonna be like an hour and a half. So I'm like, okay. So I'm talking, and she's asking all these questions, and we're just having a great conversation. And so she says, well, I really think you have bipolar disorder. And I was like, what? And she was like, so what I want to do is I want to try a mood stabilizer. She said, but we're going to start at a really low dose, and we're going to work our way up, and we're going to see kind of what happens. She said, because about once you hit about 75 milligrams, you'll be able to see a big difference. So I was like, okay. And so she said, most people don't react that way. And I was like, I'm just taking it in. I was just kind of like taking it in. And I walked out, and I remember I had to go back to work. And so I got in my car, and I just like stopped. And I said, oh my God, I have bipolar disorder. Like, and it just kind of hit me. And then like I started crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm never gonna have friends again. Nobody's gonna want to date me. Like they're gonna try to take my kids. Now people are gonna call me crazy. Like all of these thoughts. And so started running in my mind, and I just was a hysterical mess. And I went back to work, and I was like, I'm really drained. And they didn't know I was going to psychiatrist, but I was like, I don't feel good. I kind of got some news that kind of just, and I was like, can I go home? And they said, oh yeah, no problem. So I went home and kind of cried all night, and that was that. And yeah, so I started on Lamictal, which is a mood stabilizer. And about 6 weeks in, I was like, I have so much energy. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I can get things done. And as we progressively, increase the dosage, I was like, I feel like a whole new person. Like it was just like I was like, oh my gosh, I could have been feeling like this for years had I not been on antidepressants, which never worked. And I tried so many, and I'm like, I'm like, this isn't working. And they're like, well, let's switch to a different antidepressant. I'm like, but I don't think that's the problem. Once I got on that, I'm still on the Mictal. I love it. It works amazing. I don't want to ever change it. I know eventually that I'll probably have to switch up. Typically with SSRIs and different mood stabilizers, once you use it for a while, your body kind of gets regulated to it. So most likely within about, I think it's like 5 to 7 years, you kind of have to switch up and change medication. So when that time, or if that time comes, I'll be, ready to rock and roll. Like, hey, let's go. Like, no, let's get this together. So yeah.
So tell me this. So how would you define like bipolar disorder? And are you like, I know that there's a bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, and which are you?
So I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder type 2. I don't like how they say it medically, because they make it seem like if you manage bipolar disorder type 2, that like you're just highly able to function. You are able to live life to the best of your ability. And so it's known as the functioning bipolar disorder. You have low moods, and mild highs. So like you can have like you won't experience mania. What we see on TV, if you watched what was that, Empire? Yeah, Empire and Andre, I think he's supposed to have, yeah, and how erratic he, oh my gosh, I really did not like his character. But just his erratic behavior and kind of some of the anger he had, and he's supposed to have like bipolar disorder type 1, and some of those traits. But yeah, so type 1, like I said, is a lot of mania. But what people fail to understand is that bipolar disorder, you have a ton of depression. You have a lot of depression. It's very chronic, it's very intense. And so with bipolar disorder type 2, I have really low, like mild highs, but I have really devastating lows, and they last for such a long period of time.
So what does it feel like when you're like in the moment? Like, how does it feel?
So now that I'm on medication, I can actually differentiate between I'm just feeling low and I'm actually in a full blown depressive episode. For me, it's more of noticing like my behavioral changes. When I'm really anxious, I like don't fold clothes, I don't clean up, I kind of like throw stuff around the room. And I'm just like, like my room is chaotic because my life will be in chaos at that point. I can tell the difference between being anxious and depressed just based off of small things like, oh, I didn't do my hair today. I just put it in a ponytail. Oh, well, I didn't have enough energy to take a shower, so I just washed off. Oh, so it's like the energy, I can feel like the energy decrease. And then, like, and I know to most average people, they're like, you didn't want to take a bath. And I'm like, it's not that I didn't want to, I just didn't have the energy to. So small things like that is when I start knowing like, okay, I'm in a low mood, or I'm either about to go into a full blown depressive episode. I sleep a lot when I'm depressed. Like I sleep a lot. I'm always sleepy. I just want to stay in the bed. I kind of just want to, curl up and watch TV and go to bed. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to talk to people. Like everything is like I can't do. I don't have enough energy to deal with that. Physically, I can definitely feel it. Like everything is tense. I can feel it like in my body. I can feel it in my back. A lot of migraines, a lot of nausea, so just a lot of physical symptoms. My blood pressure becomes elevated when I'm like really anxious or even depressed. So I can kind of
That's
gauge it
interesting,
now.
the mind body connection now.
Yeah, I really can gauge like, okay, wait a minute, like kind of easing off. Even with hypomania, like I can tell, like I'm like, okay, you're rambling. Okay, you don't remember a whole conversation you just had. Okay, you stayed up all night 3 days in a row. You only had 2 hours of sleep. Like I can start pinpointing. I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, whoa, we got to call the psychiatrist. Luckily now, because I've been managing so long, my psychiatrist I have now, I have backup Ambien. Like she's already prescribed it. So in the event I am like noticing myself getting into a hypomanic episode, I can take it so I can go back to sleep. So the key really with like hypomania and even mania is to get yourself back regulated with your sleep, because that's like a key sign.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that's like soon as you feel yourself like, oh man, I stayed up like all day, I only slept 2 hours. Okay, maybe you're studying for an exam. Then you do it Tuesday, then you do it Wednesday, then you do it Thursday, and you still have just as much energy as you had when you slept 8 hours. That's what it's like. Whoa, something. The average person who sleeps 2 hours is going to be exhausted. And so that's really like my key sign. And so for me, it's important to get back on that sleep schedule. It's important for me to like, okay, we got to go back to sleep. Like we got, because it's like going to just continue to bottom out. So I already have Ambien. So I can already take that and go back to bed. So I can already get my sleep back regulated. And then, of course, it's a little different if you're experiencing like hallucination. So if you are experiencing mania, like if you're type 1, you most likely Ambien and like something to get you to sleep won't kind of help you until you can get to the doctor, because you're most likely going to need an antipsychotic, medication. And so even with people who manage bipolar disorder type 2, you can experience mania. So I can ideally one day, experience mania. So it's not that people with bipolar disorder 2 can experience it. It's just that it's not really common. It's not a
Not
just
the
not a
same
common symptom.
frequency. Got
Just
it.
not a common symptom. hmm
So you said that you experience like the depressive states, they last for a very long period of time. What's a long period of time?
when I explain this to people are like, you gotta be kidding me. So chronic suicidal ideation, as far back as I can remember, how long I like just wanted to not be here would be about when I was about 21 until I was 27. And so like it was like every day. Like I would wake up and be like, I don't want to be here. I would be driving like I wish I could drive off the side of the road. It was like, oh man, if I got in a car accident, I wouldn't care. If I got cancer, I wouldn't care. It was just always like those ruminating thoughts of like, oh, I wish somebody would just like come in my house and shoot me. It's like always like I just don't want to be here. And so that feeling just was every day. Every day. It was just like a revolving door. It never changed. It never got better. And so that was just the chronic part of it. The depressive episodes for me would go really long periods of time. So like I'd be in a really deep depressive episode for like 2 months straight. And then like I would kind of come out of it, but it would just be just enough to get me back to I can take a shower. I can go to work, but I still would have bouts of I just want to sleep. I'm just crying all day. I don't want to eat. And, I just want, so I would still feel those things, but it wouldn't be as intense. So the intensity would kind of wear off and then it would kind of go back down. So it was just, I was kind of always fluctuating between extremely depressed and then just mildly depressed. And that went on for years. And it's
But
like
is there any way
consistent.
that you can kind of come out of that depression? And like you said, so for example, you said to help manage like the bipolar piece, right? If you manage your sleep, then you can see your symptoms decrease, right? But is there anything when you're like in a depressive state that you can take or that you can do to kind of help elevate your mood?
Everybody is different. Most doctors, most psychiatrists and therapists will tell you to go walk or go sit on the porch. Getting sun, getting that vitamin D will help. And even if you take vitamin D pills, they don't your body can't really absorb it as well, unlike the sun. Go sit out in the sun for a few minutes, get that little sun, that little fresh breeze, that little air that will kind of raise those endorphins and serotonin levels, and you'll be like, oh, I feel a little better. That doesn't necessarily work for me just because my depression is really chronic. For me, it's really like taking small steps, doing small, like setting small goals. So for me, it's like, okay, write a list of things that you want to do. Okay, great. So you want to just eat breakfast in the morning. If all I can do is get up and eat a biscuit, I'm like, I did a lot. Like I gotta give myself grace because that's all I can do. And so just really like trying to tell myself, like, okay, do something small. Just anything small is okay. I always tell people I have yet to figure out what I can do when I'm in a depressive episode because I can't get myself out of it. Like I have to go to the doctor. Like there's no way for me to say, okay, I could just talk myself through this. Like I can do a panic attack. I can't do that because I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like it's too late. Once I get like in a deep chronic episode, I can't see myself out. But if I'm in a low mood, if I'm just kind of like just a low mood, I can see myself out of that. I can journal. I can, maybe start stretching and incorporating a routine. That's really important for me. That helps me with anxiety. But of course it helps for, other things. But, stretching in the morning, listening to meditative music at night, those type of things kind of do help me kind of try to push some of that down because what I found from my doctor or multiple psychiatrists is that if you allow like anxiety to continuously go on and you don't get help, it will trigger a depressive episode. So if you continue to kind of let that happen, eventually you're going to trigger yourself into a depressive episode. And if you kind of continue to let that happen, if you have bipolar disorder, you can trigger yourself to go in a hypomanic episode. So it's all about trying to really manage everything before it gets worse, before it kind of bottoms out, before it kind of gets to the chronic and, full blown depressive. With depression, just for me, I can't think of it. Like I always try to tell people, I'm like, I don't know what to tell you to do because people ask me for advice and I'm like, I don't have an answer because nothing really works for me when I'm in a chronic depression. Like I just have to go to the doctor. It's my only
But
way
when
to
you
get
say
out of
go
it.
to the doctor, like what happens when you go to the doctor?
So if you are in a depressive episode, which I have been in tons of times, and going to my psychiatrist, what they typically do in my case, what has happened for me is we increase my medication And so with Lamictal, you have to start off with a low milligram, typically 25. And you have to, it's such a strong medication. You have to titrate it until where you get to a point where you're like, okay, this, I feel good. This works. I don't need any more. Like this dosage is fine. And so once we got to, I think it was 75, we kind of waited like 2 or 3 months and I'm like, oh, she's like, how does this feel? And I was like, I don't think it's gonna work. So we bumped it up, which I had already been on the Lamictal before, but then I moved back home and all that happened. And then I like didn't have a doctor. So, it was like a period I went through like a whole year with nothing. We kind of just tweaked it. So recently, last week, we actually went from 150 to 200. So now I'm at 200 milligrams. And so when I went, I told her, she said, well, how do you feel? And I said, well, I feel okay. I said, but I am afraid because I was on 175 and I got kicked into a hypomanic episode. I said, so I feel like I need just a little cushion to like about 200. So just in case I have just that little cushion. And honestly, I can tell the difference. I've been on it a week, and I can already tell the increases. Like I have energy, I can do things, I feel good, feel motivated. I don't have all those negative thoughts and I'm a bad person and I'm guilty, like all of that has kind of started to kind of cease. So that's the solution. It's not the quick solution though, because if you're in a chronic depressive episode, you get medicine today, that's not going to help you today, you know. So that's when they start asking those questions of, do you want to harm yourself? Do you want to harm anybody else? My only thing with that is average person is not going to tell the doctor. Most people are scared. They don't want to be hospitalized. They don't want the police to be called. So your average person is going to say, "Oh no, I'm fine." And so once you get to a space where I am and you feel comfortable and like really advocating for yourself and saying like, yes, I am having suicidal ideation. No, I don't want to harm myself. No, I don't need to go to the hospital. I just need to increase my dosage. Like once you get to a place where you're able to like put your foot down and advocate, you'll notice kind of your doctor like, oh, I can't, like, oh, I can't push this person. Like, okay, they know what they need. And so I've been fortunate though to have psychiatrists who really listen and say, what do you need? How do you feel? Do you think we need to go up? Do you think, and they kind of gauge it that way. And so that has really been amazing. But yeah, if you're in a depressive episode and you go to the doctor, they're gonna give you something. They may increase it, they may change it, but unfortunately, you kind of gotta work through it until you can kind of get to that place where it doesn't feel so intense. Antipsychotics, however, work a little quicker. But most of the times, if you need an antipsychotic, they will hospitalize you because ideally at that time they assume that you're, danger to yourself and a danger to somebody else. So most likely you'll be hospitalized.
So tell me this, like, I think that one of the things that is kind of like woven throughout all of this has been like your level of consciousness about your mental well-being. So how do you believe that we as women, we can become more conscious about our well-being mentally? Because I think that, like you talked about how you had symptoms as you were thinking about as early as 12 years old, right? And so it was like this thing over time, but normalizing how, you felt. Right. And so now you have like this level of consciousness. And so how do you think other women can be more conscious of their mental well-being?
Be honest. I think women, we do this thing where we tell people what we think they want to hear. And I do it. I'm really bad at it. I tell people what I think they want to hear, what I think they'll like, what I think will make them feel comfortable, what I think like, oh, I need to do this. And that's not being honest. That's not confidence. Like confidence is you being true to yourself and you being like, I'm showing up for me, and I'm being my. That is like textbook definition of confidence. Is not how attractive you are, societal, right? Society tells us we're attractive. That has nothing to do with you. But you're speaking your truth, you're showing up for yourself, you're being authentic with yourself. Then you're like, oh, I'm confident, I can do that. So I think being honest with not only yourself but other people. I know boundaries have been this big like topic of discussion, but it is so true. It is so true. You have to set boundaries. So, and with everybody, your children, your spouse, your coworkers, your fam, like every single person.
Everybody. With
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so I think people, as Black women, we have to understand, setting the boundary. A lot of Black women, we like to people please. We want to tone ourselves down. We don't want to be seen as the loud, angry Black girl. We don't want to be seen as the loud ghetto Black girl or whatever that even means. I have a whole issue with calling people ghetto, but that's just me. But we try to not live up to those standards. We try to like supersede that. I just watched, what was it, MSNBC or CNN, and they were just saying like, oh, we're doing this great big like documentary on like women are taking over college, and 80% of colleges are full of women and men aren't going and it's declining, and all of these things. And you see Black women being praised for like having the highest numbers of becoming entrepreneurs, and like you see Black women. And so I really feel like a lot of that is like we are trying to show people we're deserving, we're worthy. Look at us, look what we can do. Look how strong we are, look how resilient we are, look how powerful we are. And it's like you can do all of that by setting a boundary. You can do all of that by being true with yourself. Like you can do all of those things by being true to yourself. Like you don't have to prove anything to anybody. And I think, just self-reflection, being honest with yourself, giving yourself grace.
Yes.
Oh my
Giving yourself
gosh.
grace and not feeling
Oh,
like you always have to have your shit together. I'm sorry.
please,
For real.
please.
Like, it's like always this notion of always having your shit together. And it's like, no, sometimes you won't. You
You
won't, Queen.
don't.
Yeah.
You won't. You won't. There will never be a moment in your life where you get everything perfect. There will never be a moment in your life where it's the right moment. Like, oh, I did it like perfectly. I started this thing, and like that is a myth. That is what society has told us. This is a westernized society. You start looking back at our people, and you start looking at what our people do, and you start looking at other countries and their stress level, and just how much they don't deal with anxiety and depression, and you listen to the culture and what they do and how they help each other and how they pour into each other, and it's like, what are we doing? It's like, what are we doing here? How can we get out of that? Like, and so yeah, absolutely. Mental health, I think for Black women has been like, really on the rise. We're seeing a lot of Black women come out with just amazing platforms. I mean, just awesome platforms, and really trying to be a beacon of coping and really managing your mental health and mental wellness. And it's so many avenues. Like I'm so excited to see Black women get back to our roots, going into yoga. Like
Yes.
what?
Yes.
Like you know
Yes.
how powerful yoga is to the body and the mind and
And
the
the mind,
spirit.
all of that. Yep.
Oh my God. So seeing us kind of go back home to me, I think is just an amazing thing to get our mental wellness together. And it's important. Women are and always will be like the pillars of everything. We run everything. Black women run everything. We are the movers and the shakers. We are the creators. We are the founders. That's us. That's who we are. And we don't even try to do it, and we do it. Like we leave our drip everywhere. Like we don't even try to drip it.
Right.
It's just
Sprinkling it everywhere.
yeah, we just sprinkle it everywhere. And so yeah, it's important. And I think, just like I said, being honest, being true, giving yourself grace, knowing that you can't do it all at the same time. Girl, put it on a calendar. Like it's okay. You can do it, just not all in one day. So and those, just taking those little mile steps and giving yourself, for me, what really helps me manage my mental wellness seriously, and this has worked like so much, is really saying, okay, what do I want to accomplish this week or today or in the next hour? And saying, wow, okay, even if I just do half of the clothes today, I just wash half of them. I've done something, right? The clothes are not going anywhere, girl. The clothes will still be in that chair, in that basket. They ain't gonna walk away. And just saying, it's okay. What
Progress over
standard are we?
perfection. Yep.
Yeah, like what standard are we living up to, girl? Who? It's your house. You want to leave clothes in your chair? It's your house.
It's your house.
Like
Yes.
it's your house. Like it's not anybody else's home. And so yeah, like you said, just knowing that you don't have to do it all, and it's more important to take care of yourself. I am a living witness to, you will stress yourself out and you will get yourself sick. I was paralyzed for 3 months in 2018. I could not
What?
walk. I could not see out of my left eye. I could not use my hand. I went from walking, driving to work to by noon. I couldn't walk. I was in an emergency room. I couldn't see.
Girl, what
And
happened?
so they don't really know, but I was at work and I was already kind of feeling weird when I drove to work. And I got to work and just it started getting worse. And I was like, what is going on? And about 12 o'clock, I got to work at like 8. And by 12, I tapped on my coworker's cubicle and I was like, Wendy, can you come here? She was like, yeah. I said, don't panic. I said, you promised me you're not going to panic. She said, uh-uh. I said, so I can't feel the entire left side of my body. I was like, but don't panic. I was like, wait a minute, wait. I was like, what? She was like, what? I was like, I just, I can't feel it. I was like, I can't walk. I
Oh my
can't get up. I
gosh.
can't see. So I was like, I can't see, but I don't want you to panic. Okay. So she was like, okay. And then she like ran. She like ran
Oh my gosh. So what happened? Then what happened?
so I actually thank God I worked in a hospital. And so they were able to get me right up. And so first they said, oh, she has MS. Like she's African American, she's the perfect age, she, all these symptoms. And so they said, well, we're gonna do all the MRIs. And so they did it. And they were like, well, it doesn't look like MS. And so initially they said it was conversion disorder, which is a disorder. They said that people who have experienced a lot of trauma, it's kind of like your mind kind of disassociates. And it's pretty how the doctor explained to me. She said it's kind of like your mind says, I'm done. Like your mind is like, I'm done. Like you have exhausted me. I am overworked. I've experienced too much. I'm just gonna shut down. So that was kind of how she explained it. And then just over the years of still having to go to the doctor and the MRIs and CAT scans. And so they said they think I had a pin stroke, so like a minor stroke. So I've been and I still have issues. I still have a lot of issues walking. If you saw me, you would be like, oh, I don't notice anything wrong. But physically, and so I have a lot of issues with like walking up steps and a lot of issues like walking down, carrying things. I don't write the same anymore. Like it's a lot of things I don't do. But yeah, and with stress, I mean, it was about to
Man,
kill me.
listen, stress will
It
kill
was,
you.
please, it will kill you. And I was thinking the other day and I said, my therapist, I just had a session with her on Wednesday and she said, you are so consumed with getting validation from other people. She said, but you couldn't walk. Where were those people then? You want their validation and they didn't even call you to see if you could walk. Why do you care what they think? Why? So I've been thinking about what she said and I was like, she is absolutely right. So yeah, stress that is no joke. Heart attacks, strokes, I mean, all kind of stuff. Things get
Diabetes,
triggered.
all that. Yep.
Yeah. All of that high blood pressure. And it's like, girl, for what? Like for what? So I mean, I worked at a bank and this guy had a heart attack. He was an employee. That's how stressed he was. He had a heart attack at work. I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's real. It is a real thing. It is a real thing.
Before we go or we wrap, one of the things that you mentioned was that when between the time that you came back from Florida back to Georgia, that basically it was like a year in which you didn't have medication. One of the things that is really important for me in sharing with the podcast are like resources, right? So for folks who may not have like insurance, how does that work? Like, and you have a mental illness, like, are you able to get support? How would you suggest someone go about getting the support that they need?
That is really one of the challenges that a lot of mental health advocates are trying to maneuver. I worked in a hospital. I was a debt recovery specialist and I went to the ER. So people who didn't have health insurance, I would go to them, see what their, kind of what their diagnosis was. And if it was something that they could get Medicaid for, or if it was something they could get disability, I would, get those people's information and fill out their application for them. They would sign, we would go through that whole process. So unfortunately, Medicaid takes forever. Unfortunately, disability takes even longer than forever. And you pretty much like have to be on your deathbed to get disability. So that unfortunately is a path. And then another path is most people just go to the emergency room because they can't, most emergency rooms are going to take you depending on the hospital. And the only way they can get help is just going to the emergency room, which sucks because you're only going to get about 30 days of medication. It's not like they're going to give you a whole year worth of medication. Some low cost places will kind of discount you, will like give you a payment plan. There are very few doctor's offices that will give you a payment plan. You'll like every time you come, you'll have to pay like 25, $50, and then you can get your medication. Unfortunately, if you don't have any form of money, you really don't have an option. You kind of just don't, unfortunately, you just really don't have an option. If you don't have sometimes some people with insurance just don't have an option. Now we're starting to see a lot of therapists really say, okay, I'm gonna create a curve. I'm gonna create this. I'm gonna do a grant. I'm gonna raise money to get a scholarship. I'm gonna do, to kind of help folks out. But it's really challenging. And unfortunately, a lot of people go to prison because they can't get the help they need. And when you can't get the help you need, sometimes, I mean, behaviors and symptoms cause you to kind of do things that you have a lack of control for, or it may be something you might steal grocery out of the store. You want to eat. I mean, that's just logic. People want to eat. And so we have so many people in prison in general, so many Black folks, and then so many Black folks who need mental health services. And so it's just a hard thing. And that's what a lot of advocates are trying to do. A lot of therapists now are even like, hey, that I'm starting a scholarship fund. My goal is $100,000, and I want to pay for people to come see me or people to go to other people so people can get help. But that's more so for the therapist side and the
Right.
psychiatrist
Not the
side.
necessary like
Right. So
medication treatment.
if you need medication, it's like, uh-oh, what are you gonna do? It's kind of like, uh-oh. I know my psychiatrist has said, like, if I don't have insurance, that what she can do is I can let her know, like, okay, hey, I'm not gonna have insurance past, next month. Can you write me like a 90-day prescription so I can, if I get a job and have to wait 90 days, I'm okay. Because the part that sucks for folks who take medication is once you don't have the money or you don't have insurance and you cold turkey or you just stop taking it today, guess what happens? You're going to send yourself into a really chronic depressive episode or a chronic hypomanic episode or a chronic anything. And so that's like always the tricky thing. I'm like, oh crap, I got to make sure I keep health insurance because in the event that I don't have medicine, I'm down the road. Like I'm stuck. So, like I said, that's just the unfortunate thing. There are organizations that are trying to create some laws and put some laws in place and trying to figure out Medicaid. I do know that with if you are a person that has gone to a mental health facility within three times within 12 months, you qualify for Medicaid. A lot of people don't know that, but you would have to have gone to a mental health facility. Some people don't go 3 times in a year. What, like, I haven't gone 3 times in a year. I'm not eligible. But for those folks who have gone consistently, they are eligible. They are eligible to get Medicaid. If they're in the facility for, I think it's like more than 30 days. Yeah, if you're in a facility more than 30 days, you qualify for Medicaid. So, of course, if you are in a mental health facility longer than 30 days, you qualify for Medicaid because the hospital wants you to pay. They want their money. Oh yeah, they want. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, they want their
love.
money for
Oh,
sure.
they love it. They were like, we got to get this person on disability. They, we got to get our money. And they can retroact it, like, right? So they can get their money if you've been in there for 6 months. Oh, they're gonna be like, this person been here for 6 months. We need some cash.
Where those coins, right?
Where those
Right.
coins, and so they will push for this. I mean, the hospital will get lawyers. They will get everybody involved if they're like, no, this person has been here in a mental health facility for 30 days, for 60 days. They need no, they need we need some medication. We need them to get up out of here. So yeah, they will try, but it's such a difficult thing and it sucks and it really affects people of color. Like, honestly, it affects people of color really, really bad. And we get misdiagnosed so much. So most people get diagnosed with bipolar disorder and they don't even manage bipolar disorder. So many Black folks, especially Black men. Black men really they get misdiagnosed, a lot. So it's difficult. It is a very challenging and it can be disheartening. And so I do understand and have a lot of compassion for people who like I give up. What am I gonna do? I don't have any medication. So it's just like I have to self-soothe. I have to, have poor coping mechanisms. I gotta go home and say, "Ooh, girl, I need a drink to calm my nerves." You know what I'm saying? Or let me call this girl or this guy so they can come over for a nightcap. Because you're trying to get your mind off of everything. It's unfortunate, and I really hope that a lot of change makers, a lot of advocates, a lot of folks, we can get together and really, really, really make a huge difference and just get some things changed. Like, so important, so important.
It's so important. And the time that we're recording this is September, which is National Suicide
Suicide.
Prevention Month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's really important. I actually had a friend of mine from high school who passed away this year from suicide. And so I think that is something that, we definitely want to talk a lot more about, because it's real. It's very real. People are hurting out there, and I think that it's important that we do have more compassion for one another, because we never know what the next person is going through. Is there any advice that you would give to someone, whether woman, man, however they may identify, if they are in a relationship with someone who has a mental health disorder? Do you have any suggestions for how they kind of manage or support them in that process?
That's a very, very good question. And that is something that myself and other people who manage a mental health disorder kind of talk about, and just our struggles with dating and having a spouse. And so as somebody who did have my mental health kind of really affect my marriage and ultimately lead to our divorce, I want to say people need to have compassion, which I do still believe. You have to have compassion. I always tell people having a mental health disorder is not an excuse. It doesn't excuse like poor behavior. I understand why we may make some decisions, like I get it, but it doesn't excuse, like, the person that you're with does not have to bear the brunt of your inability to manage your, like that, because they have to set boundaries too. They have to set boundaries too. They have to take care of their mental health and mental wellness. They got to go to work. They got to sleep. They got to eat like everybody else. And so I think for the person on the outside, well, okay, I'll start with the person on the inside. I had a friend tell me, you shouldn't be telling guys or anybody that you have a mental health disorder. Like, you got to wait until you find out they love you, and then you can tell them. And I said, well, what if they don't tell me they love me until like month 8? And what if between month 1 and month 8, I have a hypomanic episode and I'm acting erratic? What am I gonna say? What am I going to tell them? What is gonna happen if I'm in a full blown depressive episode and I have to go be hospitalized for 2 weeks? What am I going to say? I said, because that's not fair to them. And then they feel like, well, why wouldn't you tell me something like that so I can be there to support you? Or they may say, I don't want to be with you. Like, I don't want to be with you. Like, I didn't know you had that. So I think it is important to share if you feel comfortable. So the person that manages the mental health disorder, if you feel like, I don't feel comfortable telling this person just yet, don't do it. Don't even do it. You just wait till you have a great comfort level, and then and then of course you let them know. But the person from the outside looking in, have grace for the person, but don't put yourself in a situation to where your mental health diminishes. Like, yes, be supportive, set the boundary. Yes, be supportive, but don't take it on as this is something I have to fix. I need to fix her. I need to fix him. I need to fix them. Like, that's not the mentality you have to have. Yes, you should definitely educate yourself. Definitely. That is the key thing. There's so many myths and stigmas and watching stuff on TV, and you think that's how it goes. And educate yourself. If the person wants you to go to therapy, if they feel nervous, definitely go. Be supportive. Definitely be supportive. Don't do the work, because they still have to do the work. You can go to therapy with them. That's all great and fine. But if they go to therapy and aren't learning anything from it, doesn't really matter. So I think, just being supportive, but really setting the boundary, and reminding yourself, like, you can't fix that person. And it's not your fault that they're behaving this way. It's not your fault that they feel this way, right? So you can have compassion, but it has to be like this fine line between, like, okay, am I doing the most? Am I trying to heal? Am I trying to heal? They're healing, but they're not getting the healing. Like, I can't heal your stuff. I can't manage your stuff. Like that's something that you have to do. And so really finding that fine balance. Of course, the don'ts are, make that person feel bad. Don't take advantage. And I know a lot of people who manage a mental health disorder and they say, oh, my girlfriend, boyfriend, they, them, took advantage of it. They knew I had anxiety and they would gaslight me or, they would not respond to my phone calls because they knew I would become really anxious. And so you have people who do that. Definitely don't do that. Don't take advantage of anybody. Don't low blow. Like don't get in an argument and just you're crazy and that's what you're because like that's uncalled for. If you feel the need to do that, you need to walk away. And maybe you need to rethink about being in a relationship altogether. Really, you might want to think about being single for a bit. Yeah, it's like I said, important to support, set those boundaries, and remember that you cannot fix anyone, and that's not your job. That is not your job. You cannot put that on yourself because what'll happen is you'll grow resentful for that person, and then if something happens and you guys break up or the person harms themselves, you'll feel guilty. So you can't. You find yourself beginning to get in that phase, it may be best for you to say, you know what, I don't think this will work. And in the event this person goes, into the hospital or this person unfortunately takes their life or they're so, depressed or sad about breaking up and they harm themselves, you got to know it's not your fault. That I think, and that's difficult. People have survivors guilt, and that's a real thing. And so when you're in that type of situation, that is definitely difficult. Go get therapy. Even if you're dating somebody, go get therapy, period. That's
Yes, yes. Say that one
first
more
and
time for the
foremost.
people in the back.
Girl, just go get therapy, period. I always do my rant about people think therapy is a reactive situation, a reactive service. Is proactive.
Yes,
It's
yes,
proactive.
yes.
And so even if you don't date anybody, go to therapy. But if you're dating someone, go to therapy. And if you're dating someone who manages a mental health disorder, go to therapy. You're gonna need it. You're gonna need it just like they're gonna need it. So and that'll make everything cohesive. That'll make both parties, you'll be able to kind of work together and work through things. So and communicate. That's the big one.
Yeah, you
Whew,
got to communicate across the board.
whew, that's the big one.
For sure, for sure. So listen, what are your favorite like your mental health tools, resources, or support groups for Black and Brown folks? What would you suggest?
Let's see. I have so many. I love Imani. She is the founder of the Press While Black. I love her. She's a strong mental health advocate. She is amazing. She has a ton of resources. She has a program where she helps you find a therapist. Like she's raising money for people to actually be able to pay for a therapist. So, and so those programs, the Loveland Foundation, Loveland is great. They donate money to folks who need mental health services. Therapy for Black girls, of course, everybody knows Dr. Joy. She is amazing. There's actually therapy for Black men. They are
Yes,
amazing
I've
as
seen
well.
that.
They are
Yes.
amazing as well. You stressing incorporated with Dr. Rashawn. He's amazing. Him and three other therapists. They do monthly check-ins with men. They're men like followers and stuff. And it's called "Are You Good, Bro?"
I
And it is.
love it.
I love it.
Yes.
And I have sat in and listened and not said anything because it's not my space, right? So I've sat in and listened to the conversations because it's live on YouTube and just the men who come on and they are powerful. The conversations are so powerful. And what I like is that even though a lot of women are listening, we allow them that space. This is their space. We don't need to talk. We don't need to jump in. This is your space. So that's really good. Oh my gosh, there's so many people. Oh, I love Dr. Amber Thornton. Oh
Oh,
my gosh, I feel that it's
you
wrong.
talking about balanced working mama?
Yes, Balance Working Mama. I actually
She
went to
was
one
on
of
the
her
podcast on
retreats.
season 1.
I love Amber. She is
Yeah,
the
she's good people for
best.
sure.
She is the best. So many. I'm like, it's so many people that I could name. Beam. Oh, I love Beam.
Yes,
Oh my
yes.
gosh, I
And
love
I didn't
Beam.
realize that Beam is like a relatively new organization.
Yes,
I was
yes.
like, oh, okay
Beam is
then.
the truth. I like the Okra Project. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Okra Project. They are for African American folks or Black folks who are trans, LGBTQ community. Amazing. It's amazing. Like, I love everything they do. They're very transparent with their organization, very honest and open, and I just love like the passion that they have, that drives them. But those are like the ones I can think of off the top of my. Of course, there's like a ton more, but those are the ones I know that are really doing great work. I know they are really, hitting the pavement, creating valuable resources. Like, they aren't playing around. Like, they're like, no, we got to help our people. Like, they are on it. Yeah, they are on it. They're like, we got to get some healing. Like,
Gotta get some healing for sure. Yes, that's awesome. So what tools are you using in your toolkit right now for your wellness?
So my wellness toolkit. So I'm in school and I'm an overachiever, and I'm also a person who likes to overwork themselves to not think about all of the things I have going on in my life. So what I'm doing now is setting a time for me to go to sleep like a child. In the words of a psychiatrist I had before, she said, you have to baby yourself. She said, and so some things you can't do that your friends do. You can't go out and binge drink and go club and drink and stay up all night and drink. Like, those are things you cannot do, because then your medication is not working. It's the pointless. So I try to make sure I'm asleep by about 10 o'clock during the week. Sometimes on the weekend, I kind of stay up if I go out with a friend or, something like that. So sleep is very important. I make sure I really try to go to sleep on time. There is a meditation app that I use. It's called Sleep Sounds. It used to be free, but I bought the subscription because the subscription is like $2 for it's like unlimited time. Like, so I have it forever. It's like $2 and I love it. You can make your own music. Like, you can choose different sounds. They have like like voice meditations. They have like yoga settings. It's a lot. They have like storybooks, and so I use it to like go to sleep. And when I tell you that thing works, oh my gosh! Like, if I turn it
Wait,
on
it's
at
called
night,
Sleep what?
Sleep Sounds. It is
Wait, does
amazing.
it have an owl on the front?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's so funny. I used to use that app a long time ago, and I had some playlists. Girl, listen, that's good sleep.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah, that's some good sleep. The white
That's
noises and whatever you
yeah.
you can hear some owls in the background.
Yeah. Some little wolves, girl, that thing is good. So
little
that's
rain
what I
trickling.
use.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I use that, and I use, like I said, I try to set myself to go to bed. I try to make sure I eat breakfast every day. I notice when I don't eat, my anxiety is like, it intensifies, because like I'm starving, I'm frustrated, I get irritated, can't focus. And so I make sure I eat breakfast. That's definitely a key thing for me. Once, let's say I haven't done any of those things and I'm just having a really rough day, very anxious, or feeling myself like in a low mood, I really try to take it easy. Like, I'm like, okay, you can't push yourself today. You can't try to do 100 things today. Today you need to rest. If it's a day, I mean, if it's during the week, I have class, and unfortunately, I can't do that. When I come home, I'm like, no homework, no classwork, no tests, no reading, no nothing. Like, come home, chill out, decompress, rest, don't lay in the bed, like sit up, so, go outside on the porch, just doing things to not like seclude myself and kind of get that energy out, like, you always want to kind of move that energy out. And so those things, like right now, currently, that I'm trying to do, and just keeping in mind, like, I can't overwork myself. You got to say no. I have a bad time not saying no. Start saying no. So trying to incorporate that into my Rolodex of words to say, say no. But yeah, so those are just some things. And plants. I started collecting plants.
Oh, are you a plant mama too?
Now that girl, when COVID came, I was like, look, I want me a plant. And I was like, I'm gonna kill it. So I got a plant. I was like, okay, I'm doing good. So I saw another plant. I was like, ooh, that's cute. So I was like, ooh. So now I'm at plant number 17. Every time I go, I'm like, ooh, that's cute. Ooh, that's cute. So I'm buying plants.
So you are a true plant mama for sure.
Yes. And I've lost a few, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you get that green thumb now. Yeah, with the practice, for sure. So listen, for the folks who are interested in connecting with you, how can they do so?
So you can find me on all social media. I'm on Facebook under Consciously Coping. I'm on Instagram, Consciously Coping. I'm actually more active on Instagram. So you kind of want to see what I got going on. I'm in the stories. I usually post things. I'm resharing stuff. So Instagram is really good. I'm kind of active. YouTube, I have not done a video in a while, but YouTube is Consciously Coping as well. And then Twitter, I kind of hop in and out of Twitter. There's always a lot of stuff going on with mental health. A lot of mental health professionals and advocates are on Twitter. So I try to go on there just sometimes to kind of check it out. But it's Consciously Coping. So you can find Consciously Coping anywhere. You can definitely go to our website. It's consciouslycoping.com. And you'll find resources. You'll kind of find out what I do, what I share, what I'm trying to do. So that's how you're able to reach me. Always look, shoot your shot in my DM. I'm open. You need to talk. You need to find a therapist. Whatever you need to do, I got you. Like I'll find you somebody. I might can't help you, but I will find you somebody. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, Queen, it has been a pleasure speaking with you on today. You dropped some real gems, and I'm just grateful for your willingness to share your story and for the Sister Circle community to feel your energy. So thank you, Queen.
Thank you so much. I enjoy it, and I love your podcast. And thank you so much for even thinking of me to join.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it for sure. Well, all right. Well, it's a wrap. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, be sure to follow or subscribe to the show to make sure that you never miss a new episode. And also be sure to share the episode or podcast with another queen who might benefit. And before I go, I need your help. Please be sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review wherever you consume your podcast. This way, more women are able to find the show and access the information that we share here. Also, if it's on your heart to buy me a coffee, any support that you're willing to provide to help me sustain this podcast is greatly appreciated. In the meantime, you can always follow us on all social media platforms at The Sister Circle Podcast, as well as via the website, thesistercirclepodcast.com. With love, Faith.